A giant shadow fell over Philippine skies this week, not from a typhoon, but from a legendary aircraft with an unexpected mission. The United States Air Force just deployed its KC-135 Stratotanker to the Philippines, not for combat, not for deterrence, but for something far more urgent, a lifeline for a nation battered by historic floods. Its engines roared across a flooded Luzon, carrying relief, hope, and a message louder than any diplomatic statement. When disaster strikes, air power saves lives. But behind the headlines, a deeper conversation is unfolding inside the halls of the Department of National Defense. Should the Philippines finally invest in its own aerial refueling aircraft? Should we take this opportunity, not just to admire foreign support, but to prepare our skies for the next crisis, military or humanitarian? Because while the KC-135 dropped in for disaster response, its presence raised an unavoidable question: how long will we keep borrowing wings instead of building our own? Stay with us. In this episode, we'll uncover the mission behind this American tanker, the growing importance of aerial refueling in Asia-Pacific defense strategy, and why Philippine decision-makers are now eyeing their own tanker fleet as part of the country's most ambitious modernization program under Rehorizon 3. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated with the latest defense news on Pinoy Guard. On July 22, 2025, a U.S. Air Force KC-135 Stratotanker touched down in Clark Air Base. But this wasn't part of a military drill or joint exercise. This was a humanitarian response. Luzon had been devastated by back-to-back typhoons and record-breaking monsoon rains. Thousands displaced, crops destroyed, roads turned into rivers. But when land convoys failed and runways were surrounded by water, the air bridge became our lifeline. And into that emergency flew the KC-135, a Cold War relic still proving its value in the most urgent missions of our time. Traditionally known for its role in refueling fighter jets and bombers, the KC-135 has now been repurposed in Asia as a strategic cargo and relief hauler. Its recent deployment to the Philippines included transporting pallets of emergency supplies, water filtration units, and even medical personnel from Guam and Hawaii. Once again, American mobility assets showed their unmatched flexibility. But more importantly, it reminded us of what we don't yet have. Let's take a closer look at the aircraft itself. The Boeing KC-135 Stratotanker first entered service in 1957. Yes, over 65 years ago, but don't let its age fool you. This aircraft remains a key pillar of U.S. global power projection, capable of refueling up to 4 fighters in one mission, or carrying over 80,000 pounds of cargo. The KC-135 is often the silent force behind long-range operations across the Indo-Pacific. It supports everything from deterrence missions over the South China Sea to the delivery of humanitarian aid like what we're witnessing now. With mid-air refueling, fighter jets double their range, bombers cross oceans, and even rescue missions can be sustained longer. For an archipelagic nation like the Philippines, one with growing regional obligations and increasing internal disasters, the strategic value of such an aircraft can't be overstated. And now we ask the big question: why doesn't the Philippine Air Force have a tanker of its own? For years, the need for aerial refueling has been acknowledged but deprioritized. Limited defense budgets, competing priorities, and the lack of long-range fighters made tankers seem unnecessary. But that's changing. The PAF is now actively acquiring multi-role fighters under the Multi-Role Fighter Acquisition Project, Candidates like the Saab Gripen and the F-16 Block 70 are all capable of aerial refueling, which makes the lack of a tanker fleet a major limitation. In recent defense circles and budget hearings, the idea of acquiring at least one multi-role tanker transport (MRTT) has resurfaced, possibly secondhand from allies like Spain or new from Airbus, Lockheed Martin, or Israel Aerospace Industries. Imagine if the PAF had even a single tanker right now, not just for war, but for emergency supply drops, medical evacuations, and supporting regional missions in peacetime. The KC-135's mission didn't just deliver relief. It delivered a wake-up call. Under Rehorizon 3, the third phase of the AFP modernization program, there is renewed focus on air mobility, long-range surveillance, and regional interoperability. The Philippine Air Force has already set sights on larger airframes, C-130JS, possibly even aerial early warning systems. A tanker would complete that triangle of air power. And it's not just about fuel. The same aircraft could support disaster relief, medevac, troop deployment, and even VIP transport. It's a platform that multiplies everything else you own. In a future where the West Philippine Sea remains tense and climate disasters become routine, investing in one or two tankers is no longer a luxury. It's a strategic necessity. Let's not forget the geopolitical context. The Indo-Pacific is a theater of growing competition. China continues to militarize the South China Sea while conducting long-range bomber flights and maritime patrols. Meanwhile, U.S. and allied forces continue rotational deployments in the Philippines under EDCA sites, making aerial logistics even more vital. Japan, Australia, and even Indonesia are boosting their airlift and tanker capabilities. If the Philippines wants to keep pace, not just in combat readiness, but in regional cooperation, then now is the time to act. The KC-135 showed up in a moment of crisis, but will our leaders remember its value when the skies are clear? The roar of a tanker's engines shouldn't just signal foreign help, it should signal our preparedness. The KC-135 may be a guest in our skies today, but imagine what it would mean if we had our own. A country as disaster-prone and strategically located as the Philippines deserves more than borrowed reach. It deserves the tools to respond quickly, defend boldly, and assist its people from the air. This is more than a flood response story. It's a story about vision. Will our skies be ready for the next storm, or will we always wait for help from afar? You've been watching Pinoy Guard. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to stay updated on how air power, strategy, and national defense shape our future. Until next time, Mabuhay ang Pilipinas. Let's keep our skies strong.